quiet, slow, simple, and clumsy. No, I'm not talking about me. Although, now that I think about it, it is kind of fitting. But this video isn't about me. This is how a girl in France was known by those around her. Margaret Alacoque? Margaret, as a child, was often found by herself instead of playing with other children, as she preferred praying in silence. She was that kind of devout even at a very early age. Around the age of 11, Margaret fell very ill. The illness was so bad that she was bedridden for 4 years. Imagine that. We couldn't stay put for 2 weeks during COVID. She wasn't able to leave her bed for 4 years. After making a vow to St. Mary to become a sister, she was instantly healed. Now, I'm going to repeat this because it's important for what happens next. She promised to become a religious sister and was healed. Margaret, from that day forward, was known as Margaret Mary. A few years later, Margaret Mary's mother was pushing her to become more social. You see, she was afraid that her shy behavior was going to prevent her from finding a husband. Kind of not something you usually do when you plan on becoming a religious sister. Anyway, after returning from a ball to her room, Margaret Mary was visited by Jesus himself, wearing a crown of thorns, while Margaret Mary wore an evening gown. He reminded her of the promise she had made to his mother. She was remorseful of shirking her promise and decided it was best to keep the promise. At the age of 25, Margaret Mary joined the Order of Visitation. Still quiet and simple, she kind of just faded into the background. All of the other sisters used to laugh and call her names. They never let poor Margaret join in any convent games. Okay, maybe not those last parts, but she was often criticized for not being able to recite prayers in a formal way, as was expected at the time. Instead, her prayers were simplistic, unlike her last name, although it could be worse. She didn't really get much attention until, after she had been a nun for about 3 years. You see, this is the point of her life where Jesus would appear to her for a little over a year, kind of off and on. He told her that his heart was to be a symbol of his love for the world. He instructed her to receive the Eucharist every first Friday of the month, to pray in Eucharist adoration every Thursday during a holy hour, and to celebrate a feast day dedicated to the Sacred Heart. Naturally, Margaret Mary reported these visions to her superior. Can you guess how the community took it? We're not talking as bad as poor Saint Bernadette here, which we discussed a few weeks ago, but a group of theologians said her visions were delusions and that she should eat better. It's kind of like any time a woman goes to a doctor. Her visions were eventually declared genuine, and the community started keeping their opinions to themselves once she became assistant to the superior. Margaret Mary fell ill and died relatively young at 43. I feel like I have to say relatively young because, with the exception of one, the other saints we have covered on this channel so far died even younger. I'm really going to have to cover somebody who lived a longer life. Anyway, during Margaret Mary's anointing as she was dying, she said, "I need nothing but God and to lose myself in the heart of Jesus." Today, the most sacred heart of Jesus is a devotion practiced all around the world and an image that most Catholics recognize, with the fire representing Jesus' burning love for us. We celebrate the Feast of the Sacred Heart of Jesus the Sunday after Corpus Christi, and the entire month of June is dedicated to the devotion of the Sacred Heart. As an introvert myself, I'm glad to have this awkward woman's footsteps to follow. Awkward. What an awkward word to spell with the WKW. You know what's not awkward? Come on, you have to know where I'm going with this. Liking and sharing this video, or subscribing to this channel. You know what? Not or, and subscribing to this channel. I love your comments too. Alacoque. Awkward. Weird words to spell in this video.